Today on Bible Nerds, we are talking about altars because after you tear down the idols, one of the most powerful things you can do is build an altar. What's up, Bible Nerds? My name is James Meehan, and today, you guessed it, we are talking about altars. To do that, we're going to answer three important questions. The first question, what is an altar? The second question, what are they for? And third, what does this mean for me? Starting with question number one, what is an altar? An altar is a place where people offer sacrifices to God. The first mention of an altar is found in Genesis 8. Genesis 8:20 reads, "Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and birds that had been approved for that purpose." After the flood, Noah and his family exit the ark, and the first thing Noah does is build an altar to offer sacrifices to God. That's what an altar is. It is a place where people offer sacrifices to God. So question number two, what are they for? Altars are a visible reminder of what God has done. We saw that just then in the instance with Noah. He built that altar as a visible reminder that their invisible God had been faithful to protect them during the flood. A few chapters later, we see this again with Abraham. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, "The Lord had said to Abram, 'Leave your native country, your relatives and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous. You will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you.'" So then Abraham, he takes his family, he takes his stuff, and he takes his people with him to Shechem. And if we pick back up in verse 7, we read this, that "Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, 'I will give this land to your descendants.' And then Abram built an altar. He built it there and he dedicated it to the Lord who had appeared to him." Altars are a visible reminder of what our invisible God has done, and they are a physical expression of our devotion to him. Abraham was marking this moment to remember that God had spoken to him, that God had called him to a distant land, and that God had promised to bless him and to bless the whole world through his kids and grandkids. Abraham was marking this moment as a physical expression of his commitment to serve and follow God wherever he led. When something that significant happens, we don't just keep going about our day as usual. We mark the moment. Think about when a couple gets married. To mark the moment, they have a wedding where they invite their friends and family to witness their union. Because marriage is a big deal, and they want to treat it like a big deal. The wedding is a visible reminder of what God has done to bring these people together, and it is a physical expression of their commitment to love and serve one another. You see, when God shows up in our lives, it is always a big deal because he's a really big and a really good God who loves us like crazy and wants what's best for us. And yet, far too often, after having a radical encounter that changes everything, instead of marking the moment, we go back to business as usual. And before long, we forget what God has done and what he's asked us to do. This is why altars matter. They are a visible reminder of what God has done, and they are a physical expression of our devotion to him. Which brings us to question number 3. What does this mean for me? If you've been changed by God, if he has rescued you from sin and death, if you've done the work of tearing down the idols that used to control you, then the best thing you can do is build an altar. Build a visible reminder of what God has done and a physical expression of your devotion to him. Now, the kind of altar I'm talking about isn't a pile of stones. I'm talking about building an altar out of your life by every single day remembering what God has done for you, and every single day choosing to respond to his grace by giving him your very best. Romans 12, 1 and 2. "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So what is an altar? An altar is a place where people offer sacrifices to God. What are altars for? They are a visible reminder of what God has done, and they are a physical expression of our devotion to Him. So what does this mean for you? Well, because of what God has done for you, it means that you are to make your life an altar to Him. That means you let your whole life be devoted to Him, your whole life to be directed by love. Because when you do, you will be transformed into a new person, and God will use you to make a difference. So take care and stay nerdy.